Shivanagabandhana Yogeshwara.
Sadhguru, the Shastras talk elaborately about the virtues required of a woman. What are these?
Shastras? You're talking
The
about Shastras.
What are these virtues according to you?
What virtues Shastras describe or demand out of a woman were pertaining to a certain time in history. This tradition has allowed this, that there are two dimensions to the teaching, Shrutis and Smrutis. One is eternal, unchanging, another should be constantly evolved from generation to generation. So going by virtues or moral codes which were prescribed thousands of years ago may be just out of place today. But the basic virtue for any human being, whether it's a man or a woman, I don't see separate virtues for men and women. The basic virtue for any human being is to be true to himself. When somebody is really true to himself, then functioning in the world is just a question of adjustment. Adjusting to the situations that we have chosen to live. What is virtue? Only when you're truly empty, you're virtuous. Otherwise, if you are mind, you're never virtuous. Only when you're no more mind, you can be virtuous. Your ideas of virtue, if you do this, it's virtue, if you do not do that, it is something else. This is not life virtue, this is social virtue. Society's virtues are different, they serve the society. Life virtues serve life. I am somebody who serves life, not the society. So my virtues are of life. And the only true virtue or the virtue which allows you… Virtue means that which takes you beyond in a certain way. The only thing that can take you beyond is if you are no more a limited being, if you are a vast emptiness within you, every thought that you get, every emotion that you get, every feeling that you have, you're not really associated with it. You have all those things, but you are not that. That's virtue. When you're no more a bundle of thoughts or emotions or opinions or sensations, then you are perfectly virtuous. If you're identified with your sensations or your thoughts or your emotions or your opinions, then you cannot be virtuous because you'll be biased with life. If you're truly virtuous, you must be beyond all bias. When you're identified with something, either the body or the mind or the emotion, there cannot be any virtue. Now, for example, is Veerappan a virtuous man? You know, Veerappan, is he a virtuous man? Today he is a criminal. Everybody is wanting to have him dead. But do you know, in Tamil Nadu, one of the greatest titles that used to be conferred to great heroes in the past was one who has slain 1,000 elephants, means it is like Paramvir Chakra. Veerappan has slain almost 500, 600. He's close to becoming the greatest Tamilian ever isn't it? So, our values and virtues have changed. Today if you kill 1,000 elephants, you are a criminal who has to be put to death. But 1,000 years ago, if you killed 1,000 elephants, you were the hero of the highest order. So society's virtues are biased against life. When you are not identified with anything, you will be absolutely virtuous. When you're not identified with anything, only then you are truly capable of compassion. When you're identified, you can only be biased. When you're compassionate, you're always virtuous. People being sympathetic to certain causes or certain people is not compassion. When you're passionate about everything, when your passion has become all-encompassing, then you're compassionate. Compassion is not little pity or sympathy for something. When your passion encompasses everything, you're compassionate. Compassion is the highest virtue in a way, and compassion is not possible if you're identified with this or that. Only when you're able to just look at life as life, only then you can be compassionate. If you look at it as my life or your life, no compassion. When life is just life, there is compassion. There is See, today everything that we do, even the so-called good causes, people who take up good causes are happening with identification. Now that you asked about woman's virtue, now there are women's movements who are trying to set a new set of virtues because they don't like the old ones. New virtues will not be any better. In fact, they're more demanding and killing than the old ones. If a woman transcends her identification with her body, then she will be virtuous. If she is identified with body parts, she cannot be virtuous. When you refer to life as life, it's fine. But when you refer to life either as masculine or feminine, this whole idea has entered you not because you have perceived some other level of duality. The difference in the body parts between a man and woman has entered too deeply into your consciousness that you can't think beyond it. I know everywhere people are talking about women's issues. Women's issues can be talked only on the social level because there has been a certain amount of exploitation and injustice. We can talk about it socially. But individually, there are no women's issues. You should not carry your manhood or womanhood 24 hours of the day, it's not necessary. You can just be a being. Certain times of your life, certain situations in your life, you need to be a man or a woman, that's fine. But rest of the time, why do you want to be identified with a few body parts all the time? If you must be identified with some body part, I would suggest a brain would be better instead of reproductive organs. So there's no separate virtue for women. Virtue is for all human beings, and compassion is always the highest virtue. Compassion means including everything in your passion. When the whole existence is involved in your passion, you're